There you are, dear heart. Damn. Yes, just there beside me. The stone is cool but not unfriendly. I've warmed a spot for you, I think. Let your legs dangle if you like. The water below doesn't mind the company. It's good to see you, truly. Listen, can you hear it? The night has its own quiet rhythm. The gentle lapping of the lake against these old stones, soft as a lullaby. Even the crickets are slow tonight, as if they too are resting between each breath. The moon is only a sliver, sharp and silver but not cold. It watches from above, unblinking, casting her pale light over everything we do not say. She has seen many nights like this one, many pairs of tired shoulders, seated by still waters. I come here when the world feels too loud, when the days grow tangled with thoughts I've no wish to carry further. I sit just so, like this, with one knee bent and one foot brushing the surface of the lake. It reminds me that stillness is not the same as silence. Stillness has its own voice, its own pulse. Can you feel it now, my friend? Not the air exactly, but the hush within it. That soft, unspoken welcome that lingers in places untouched by hurry. There's a peace here I rarely find elsewhere, where nothing is expected of us, and nothing must be done. We can simply be. Behind us, the fire whispers low. I left it burning just enough to keep the chill at bay. It crackles now and then like an old friend clearing their throat before telling a story. But not tonight. Tonight, no stories must be told unless they come gently. Even the breeze is mild, brushing past your cheek like a thread of silk drawn slowly through the air. You might catch a whiff of moss, or that rich, earthy scent after the ground has cooled. I rather like it. It reminds me of long walks through pine groves in spring, when the world is damp and dreaming. Moo. No need to speak just yet. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your breathing slow. Let the weight of the day slip from your spine and dissolve into the stone beneath us. That's it. No rush. The night is in no hurry, and neither am I. You stir safe here, in this fold of the world. I've kept watch. Though I no longer carry a sword, I find I no longer need one. My armor, though weathered, is only habit now. A familiar shape. The true protection is in the quiet, in the rhythm of the water, and in the gentle presence of a friend seated beside me. You. Do you see how the moon's reflection dances? Look, there just at the edge where my boot ripples the surface. It shivers ever so slightly, like a silver coin just dropped into a basin. Beautiful, isn't it? It never asks for anything in return. It simply offers itself. To spec what this place does. It asks for nothing, but there only offers rest. I come here when the sky turns to ink, when the stars hang like seeds waiting to be planted in dream soil. It's always here, just as it is now, waiting for someone like you to come and sit a while. I like to think it remembers me. I like to think the stones sigh with relief when I return, and the water hums a little deeper with the knowing. So rest, my companion. There's nothing to figure out, no troubles to untangle, no tales to chase, just breath and moonlight and the slow hush of nightfall curling around us like a blanket. You've come a long way, haven't it, you? I can see it in your posture. That quiet kind of tired, the kind that doesn't come from walking, but from holding too much for too long. You don't need to carry it now. Not here, not with me. Stay as long as you wish. Stay until the fire fades, or until your eyelids grow heavy. Stay until your heartbeat softens to the rhythm of the lake. You are not alone tonight. Not in this place. Not with me. Let the world wait. Let your soul be still. And simply stay. It unfolds, doesn't it? This place, can you visage? It doesn't reveal itself all at once. No, the world here comes gently, as if it knows we've both had enough of sharp noise and fast steps, as if it wishes to be kind. So it takes its time. Look just beyond the edge of the pier, dear friend. Do you see how the moonlight kisses the lake? It doesn't shine. Not like daylight. It glows soft and silver, like a whispered memory across dark water. And there, where the ripples begin to fold outward from my foot, you'll see how the reflection quivers, like the moon herself is trembling with dreams. The water is still tonight. Still, but not lifeless. Beneath the surface, I imagine there are fish sleeping in the reeds, slow as shadows. Occasionally, you might hear one shift, just a faint plip far off to the right. It startles no one, not the frogs perched near the stones, not the soft-eyed owl tucked somewhere in the branches above. Everything breathes together here. Behind us, just a few paces from the fire, the old stone path fades into what remains of a ruined keep. You'd barely know it once stood tall. The ivies claimed most of it now. Moss too, thick, deep, green, damp with the night's hush. It creeps lovingly across the cracks and corners, wrapping each fallen block in quiet absolution. Time has no quarrel with this place. It has passed, yes, but without taking its peace. These stones under our feet feel them. They're uneven, worn by boots long forgotten. Knights once stood where we sit now, not like this, of course. They stood tall, proud, perhaps even afraid. I often wonder if their bones still lie beneath these foundations, not as ghosts, but as part of the soil itself, feeding the vines, nourishing the stillness, not lost, just returned. Above us the sky hangs wide and patient. The moon is shy tonight, just a crescent, but it's enough. More than enough. Stars scatter beyond it, tiny and quiet, as though they're listening too. I don't know all their names, but that's never mattered to me. Constant, steady, watching. And the trees, oh, the trees. They don't end, you know. This forest stretches far beyond what I've ever walked. Dark trunks rising like cathedral columns, branches whispering in a tongue too old for words. They breathe, I swear it. They breathe like we do, deep and slow, especially at night, when there's no one left to prove anything to. The owls there, they do not call out often, but when they do, it echoes, a long, low hoot that seems to reach out through the leaves and into the bones of the earth. I like to think it's such as a greeting, or perhaps a benediction. You are not alone, they seem to say. We are here too. Can you smell it now? That soft scent in the air. Damp ivy, earth warmed slightly by the fire behind us, and just the faintest trace of wood smoke curling around our shoulders like a woolen cloak. The breeze carries it gently, never forceful, never in a rush. It brushes through the trees and gathers stories in its path. I wonder what it's overheard. Lovers parting, wolves pacing, branches cracking under the weight of a sleepy doe. And here just beside you a little flicker. Fireflies, one, two, perhaps a dozen, drifting between reeds like tiny lanterns set adrift. They do not chase or flee, they float. They glow because they know no other way. I rather envy that. This lake, I've never known its name, if it ever had one. The villagers never spoke of it. They only called it the deep water. and that always suited me. It's dark, yes, but not foreboding, more like sacred, as if it remembers everything. The stories, the footsteps, the sighs of all who have paused here. I sometimes believe it listens better than I do. Down there, beneath its surface, are things no eye has seen in many lifetimes. Roots of trees fallen long ago, lost trinkets, and perhaps even laughter that never quite made it to shore. That's the thing about places like this. They hold echoes, soft ones, safe ones, the kind that wrap around you like a warm hand on the shoulder and tell you it's all right to rest. Even the crickets sing gently here. Their rhythm is unhurried, a soft stitching of sound through the tapestry of dark. I hear one now near the edge of the pier, rubbing its legs like an old fiddler tuning before a lullaby. The sound doesn't demand attention. It invites it, as if to say, stay, linger, let the world wait. There's something in the velvet of the air tonight, don't you think? It carries no chill, just enough cool to nudge you towards stillness. When I breathe in, my helm fogs a little. Only briefly, only gently. I like to lift it now and again. Let the night rest directly on my skin. There's a sweetness to it, not sugar sweet, but the kind of sweetness that comes from old wood, worn cloth, and peace earned over time. We are surrounded, dear one, not by walls, not by armies, but by softness, by a night that asks nothing of us but presence. There's nowhere to be, no task left to finish. Just the moon's slow rise and the quiet things that accompany it. The watchtower, or what remains of it, once marked the edge of a realm. Now it simply marks a place of stillness. I sometimes imagine it sighing, glad to no longer bear weight or worry, just stones, roots, moss, and memory. Like me, I suppose. So much of the world rushes, so much pushes forward. But here, the very stones encourage you to be still, to listen, to feel how the world can move without rushing, to understand that not all paths must be walked. Some are meant only to be witnessed. And you, sitting here with me, you belong to this night now, not as a guest, but as a thread in its tapestry. Let yourself be carried, not away but inward. Let your thoughts fall like leaves onto the surface of the lake, drifting without need to sink or swim. You are safe here. The trees know it, the water knows it, and I know it too. Let the world reveal itself in quiet. It has nothing to prove, only something to offer. Stillness, warmth, stretchment, and rest. It's a good night to feel small, isn't it? Not in a sorrowful way. No, not that. Just small like a stone in a riverbed, still weathered smooth by time, and content to rest where the current has left it. You asked nothing of me, and yet I find myself wanting to share a little, only a little, just enough to let the quiet between us deepen. This armor I wear, it doesn't shine as it once did. The polish gave up a long time ago, as did I. Now it holds the patina of years, dull where fingers have brushed, warm at the joints where the leather has worn soft. You might think it heavy, and you'd be right in a way, but not in the way that tires the body. No, this weight is different. It feels familiar, not like a burden, but like the weight of a woolen cloak after rain. Clinging, yes, but also comforting. Every buckle and plate has its own memory. This dent, a foolish misstep, near a hillside shrine long ago. That scratch, not from a blade, but from climbing a plum tree after a young boy dared me. I won, by the way, lost a gauntlet, but gained a story. Still, I don't wear it out of pride. That's faded like a banner left too long in the sun. I wear it because it reminds me who I was, so that I can sit here now quietly and remember it without needing to return. The past walks with me like a shadow, silent, close, but never pulling. My visor is up tonight. I prefer it so, especially under the moon. The air is cool on my face. Do you see the breath drifting from my lips when I speak? Like smoke, curling and fading before it reaches your shoulder. I raise the visor not for sight, but for honesty. It's easier to speak openly when there's nothing between us. Just this lake, this stone, and you. They used to call me many names. Some I earned, some I outgrew. I don't carry any of them anymore. Now, I am simply myself. And tonight, that self is still, and glad to have you beside me. It's just strange. There was a time when I could recount each year by campaign, each season by the lands I passed through. Spring was always marked by the thaw of northern roads, summer by the weight of sun on steel, autumn by the red leaves crunching beneath my boots as we marched homeward. And winter. Winter was for stories told in low halls and quiet tents. But now the years drift like mist across this lake. I could not name them, nor would I want to. They no longer ask to be counted. All I know is this: thus I have wandered far, far enough that the stars have changed above me more than once. I've slept under canopies of firefly-lit trees and on cold stone beneath the bones of cathedrals. I've passed through villages that no longer exist, and I've watched cities rise where once there was only grass. But of all those places, none hold me like this one does. Perhaps it sets the silence, or the way the moss here feels like velvet beneath the armor. Perhaps it's the company. A quiet soul like yours that listens not to reply, but to be with. You don't rush my words. That's a rare kindness. Tonight I feel no need to be more than what I am. A tired soul in a suit of memory, tracing the edge of a stone and watching the moon ripple. See this one here? I've rubbed it smooth over time, always with the same hand. I don't know why, it just feels right. The texture is comforting, like an old habit passed down through silence. I wonder sometimes if the lake recognizes me, if the trees note my return. I like to think they do. There's something steadying about being known without fanfare, just recognized by presence, by the weight of footsteps repeated often enough to become familiar. You know, I don't dream as I used to. When I was younger, sleep was a battlefield, filled with visions and noise, victories and regrets marching through my head. Now, my dreams are quieter. Sometimes I dream of warmth. Not fires or hearths, but warmth as a feeling, as if something gentle has wrapped around me. I don't question it, I let it be. And here, with you beside me and the night humming softly, I feel that same warmth, only waking. It wraps itself around my shoulders like a memory I've never lived, but always longed for. Do you ever feel that way? As if some part of you remembers something that never happened, but still feels true. A place you've never seen, but ache for. A voice you've never heard but miss. I do. Often. Maybe that's what keeps me coming back here. It's stirs quiet now, isn't it? The kind of quiet that has layers. The wind brushing branches. The faint ripple of water under the pier. The rustle of some creature small and harmless moving through the underbrush with no urgency. All of it folds into a kind of music. one I never heard when I was younger, too busy chasing things. Now, I let it wash over me. Now, I let it hold me. You too have that stillness in you, I think. I saw it when you sat down, the way your shoulders eased just slightly. The way your breath slowed without trying. You belong to this kind of night, to the gentle hush of it. I've no need to speak of past deeds. They matter little here. Swords and banners don't change the stars. All that lingers now is how we rest, how we share the space between words, how we sit in the quiet without asking it to be more than what it is. That's why I speak now, not to fill the silence, but to offer it company. And perhaps that's Sep's all Sep has ever truly wanted. Not glory, not gold, but someone to sit with on a stone pier beneath a gentle moon, to speak without pressure, to be without armor, at least on the inside. So, thank you for being here, for listening not just with ears, but with presence. Tonight, I feel known, not as a knight, not as a wanderer, just, and for that, my dear companion, I am deeply, quietly grateful. Do you mind if I tell you of a journey? Not a grand one. No trumpets, no dragons, no tale for the halls. Just a walk. A quiet one, taken not for glory, but for memory. It was some weeks ago now. The sky was soft with mist that morning, the kind that clings to the low grass and turns every leaf into a mirror. I woke early, not because I meant to, but because the birds insisted. You know how they are. They chirp and trill like tiny heralds for no one in particular. I sat up, wrapped my cloak and decided, yes, today I'll look for that garden. I don't know why it came to me. I hadn't thought of that place in years, not since I was a squire, really. Barely tall enough to wear a blade, much less lift it properly. But suddenly the image returned so clearly. A half-crumbled garden wall, stones carved with vines, and a bench tucked beneath lilac trees. It wasn't grand even then, just a little corner of quiet, forgotten perhaps, but not unloved. There was something sacred in it. I remembered the way the sun had filtered through the blossoms, how the air had smelled of warm soil and wild thyme, how for a fleeting moment I had felt as though the whole world were pausing to breathe. That's what I sought. Not the bench itself, perhaps, but the breath it once held. So I walked, not quickly, not with urgency. I had no map, no plan, only the memory, half faded, and the rhythm of my boots on soft earth. The path had changed over the years. The trees had grown in. A stream that once trickled gently now wound through with more vigor, swollen by recent rain. I took care at the stones, stepping where the moss looked kindest. I passed a grove of ash trees, tall, still, and dappled in light. Their leaves whispered as they always do, but that morning it sounded less like rustling and more like remembering. I listened, and I let their murmurs lead me. Not far beyond them, I paused. There, tucked between the roots of an old stump, a family of mushrooms had taken residence. Pale, slender things standing like monks in prayer. I smiled to them, not out of amusement, but gratitude. It is a rare thing to find something living in stillness. The air was full of scents that day. Do you know that smell, the one that rises from crushed mint underfoot? Sharp at first, then sweet. I must have stepped on a patch without noticing. The fragrance followed me like a memory, and I let it. Just beneath it, I caught the earth's own scent, deep and quiet like turned pages in an ancient book. There was birdsong too, a nightingale, I think. Though I wouldn't wager much coin on the name, it sang as though its heart were too full to keep still, a tune both old and new. I stopped walking when I heard it, and simply stood there listening, not for meaning, just for the sound. I passed a small hollow next. A clearing, maybe. The grass here grew wild but not unkind. A single deer, no antlers, still speckled with youth, stood there, its ears turned toward me, but it did not flee. We simply looked at one another. I nodded. It blinked. That was enough. You see, when one walks without hurry, the world responds differently. The trees do not hide their age. The stones do not pretend to be young. Even the breeze, gentle as it was, seemed to part around me, not out of fear, but respect, as though it knew I wasn't trying to pass through. I was trying to be there. Eventually, the old wall came into view. Just a few stones at first, half buried, softened by years. But there they were, just where I hoped they might be. And with each step, more appeared, a small arch, broken in the middle, a path of sunken flagstones, half swallowed by earth. And there, yes, just as I remembered it, a stone bench, carved with winding vines. The lilac trees were gone, but in their place had grown something else, soft moss draping down from a twisted yew, and tiny white blossoms I could not name, nestled in the cracks of the wall. The light still found its way through the branches above, painting dappled gold on the stone. I did not sit at once. Thus simply stood and let the place speak first. It had waited longer than I had, after all. Then, slowly, I lowered myself onto the bench. It was cooler than I remembered, but just as welcoming. I placed my hands on my knees, closed my eyes, and let the silence settle around me. There was no revelation, Salah. No sudden clarity, only peace, and that, I think, is rarer. I sat there for a long while. Hours, perhaps. I traced the carvings with a gloved finger. Someone had made them with care. The vines curled in loops, some ending in roses, others in stars. It felt like someone had wanted the bench to remember beauty, even after they were gone. They leaned back and breathed. In the stillness, a soft wind stirred the underbrush. Somewhere distant, a woodpecker thudded against bark, but even that sounded softened, like a heartbeat through a door. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something within me settle. Not because I had found what I was looking for, but because I had let myself look. So often in younger years, I walked with purpose, with orders, with the need to arrive. But this was different. This was a walk to remember softness, a walk to offer thanks to a place that had once held me in stillness, even if only for a moment. Eventually I rose. Slowly, I bowed my head, not out of reverence, but recognition. The garden had changed. So had I, and yet we were both still here. Older, quieter, more true. And so I walked back, no different than before, except perhaps a little lighter. And now, here I sit with you, and I carry the hush of that garden in my chest. That was my little quest. No treasure found, no foes vanquished, just a quiet bench beneath remembered branches, and the feeling that sometimes the simplest journeys are the ones that bring us most gently home. You know, my friend, there are days when I think the world hides its wonders behind grandeur, loudness, height, spectacle, but not on that path. Not on that soft, quiet journey I took. That day the world whispered instead of shouted, and I was finally walking slowly enough to hear it. I remember the first of them, a tree, tall and gnarled, with a great yawn of bark in its middle, where age had hollowed it. At first it seemed no different from the others in the glade, but as I passed closer, I saw the gleam of metal beneath the green. There, rooted within the tree's own belly, was the rusted helm of a statue long forgotten. Not placed there, no, it had been grown around. The tree had claimed it, gently and slowly, as if wrapping its roots around a memory rather than a relic. The helm's crest, a simple leaf etched in iron, peeked out through the bark like a fossilized thought, half remembered and barely breathing. I stood there for a while, tracing the edge of it with my gaze, not my hand. It didn't feel right to touch. It wasn't mine to disturb. I imagined the statue once stood proud, perhaps marking a path now long overgrown, or perhaps it had toppled long before I was born. But the tree had not judged it, only held it. And now they lived together, stone and wood, iron and time. Later, I passed a bend in the trail where the dust lay thick over the path. The sun had found a gap in the canopy and poured down like honey, warm and slow. There, crouched at the edge of a dry creek bed, was a child, alone but unafraid, drawing with a stick in the earth, just patterns, circles within circles, lines that spun and spiraled and looped without end. The child never looked up, not even when I paused. I said nothing. They seemed too deep in their world, and I did not wish to break it. Their hand moved steadily, calmly, with no care for perfection. It was not art to be saved or praised. It was simply the joy of motion, of creation for its own sake. After a while the breeze stirred, and their drawings were softened, smudged into suggestion. Still they continued, smiling faintly to themselves. I watched until the moment passed, and I left them to their quiet task. Sometimes I wonder who they were. Sometimes I think they were a dream I briefly stepped into. Another time, a dog followed me. It was an old thing, white-muzzled and cloud-eyed, its step uncertain but persistent. I hadn't heard it approach. It was simply there, walking behind me, as if we'd been traveling companions for years. I didn't speak to it, not at first. Just walked, step after step, always the soft sound of paws in the dust behind mine. We passed through fields kissed by early autumn, where the wheat swayed like gold thread and the sky hung low with sleepy clouds. The dog kept pace. Not once did it try to catch my eye. It seemed content merely to be near. When I sat beneath a fig tree and shared a piece of bread, it did not beg, but accepted what I offered with solemn dignity. At a dawn the next day, as the mist pulled itself back into the trees, I rose and looked behind me, and it was gone. No paw prints in the mud, no sound in the underbrush, just absence. I do not know if it was truly a dog. Perhaps it was a memory with fur. Perhaps it had been there longer than I could know. But in its quiet companionship, I felt no loneliness. And then there was the orchard. I came upon it by accident. If accidents exist in such places. The trees were old, twisted with age, their fruit long gone. No farmers remained, no tools, no baskets or fences, just rows upon rows of branches, some broken, some reaching skyward, as if in longing. And the fireflies, oh the fireflies, they danced through those bare boughs like lanterns held by unseen hands. Dozens of them, no, hundreds, gliding in silence, weaving their lights between the branches, flickering like slow breath. I stood in the center, arms at my sides, and let them pass around me. One landed on my pauldron and stayed for a moment longer than most. It blinked, pulsed, and rose again. There was no wind that night. Only warmth, only the sound of distant frogs calling from a nearby pond, and the hush of wings too small to hear. It felt as though I had entered a cathedral of light, each flicker a stained glass window, each moment a psalm. And you know what struck me most? That orchard, it wasn't waiting for anyone. It wasn't performing. It simply was. The fireflies would have danced whether I had walked there or not. That peace, that beauty was not summoned by my presence. It simply revealed itself because I was still enough to see. That truth I carry with me. Not all gifts are given. Some simply exist, waiting to be noticed. Even yesterday, the sky at dusk, do you remember? You were with me then. We sat beneath the oak, just at the edge of the slope. The lake was quiet, the breeze slow, and above it all, the sky transformed, not in a rush, but like a slow exhale, from blue to lavender, from lavender to gold. Then a brief blush of rose, just for a breath, then silver, then stars. No words passed between us, none were needed. That kind of sky asks not to be named, only held, only watched. These moments, they are the soft threads in the cloak of time. They do not call out, they do not clamor, but they stay. Oh, they stay, long after memory forgets the faces, the places, the paths. These moments remain like candlelight in the soul. And the more I notice them, the more the world seems to offer. A wild hare twitching its nose by a mossy stump, a feather drifting down in the quiet of morning, the hum of bees in a lavender bush you didn't know was there until you stopped to listen. A stone that fits perfectly in your hand and feels like it has always waited for your palm. We often speak of quests as things that move forward, toward a goal, toward some distant reward. But I think, perhaps, the real treasures are gathered when we walk slowly enough to collect them. The statue, the child, the blind dog, the fireflies, the sky. None of them asked for me. None of them even noticed me. Not in the way we usually think of, but they were there, and in being with them, I was changed, not dramatically, not loudly, but softly, like a stone smoothed by time and river. You've had these moments too, haven't you? I see it in the way your eyes soften when the fire cracks just right. I hear it in the way your breath stills when the night hushes around us. You've known wonder, not the kind that roars, but the kind that glows. These are the things I carry now, not swords nor shields, doulas, sights, sounds, the smell of crushed mint, the feel of moss beneath a gauntlet, the weight of a firefly resting on iron. These are my spoils, dear friend, and I wouldn't trade them for all the gold in the world. Listen to that. Not the fire nor the water, but the space between them, that gentle, patient hush. I've come to love that more than I ever thought I would. It holds something the world rarely grants us permission to pause. May I tell you something quiet, my friend, something soft, like a breath exhaled after too long holding it in. There was a time not so far behind me, but far enough that I feared stillness. I mistook it for emptiness, for idleness. I thought, if I wasn't moving, if I wasn't striving, marching, becoming, then I was fading, dulling, lessening. But I was wrong. Stillness, I've come to learn, is not the absence of life. It is the space in which life speaks most clearly. I've seen it in the lake. Time wears away at the stones beneath its surface. not by force, but by patience, by presence, by showing up again and again, rippling gently around the same edges until the shape becomes something new, not broken but softened, not erased but refined. Think it, people are like that too. We are not made sharp and then left unchanged. We are shaped, ever so slowly, by moments we do not always notice, a kind voice at just the right time, the weight of sunlight on a quiet morning, the way it feels to sit beside someone who expects nothing from you but your being there. Sometimes shows if changed, not through grand deeds or oaths shouted into the wind, but in the quiet, in nights like this one. Sometimes I wonder if you feel it too, that gentle shifting, not sudden but steady, like a tide within your chest. You're not who you were yesterday, nor am I, and that, I think, is beautiful. There's an old saying among stone carvers, the chisel follows the grain already waiting beneath. They do not force the form, they reveal it, carefully, slowly. I think the soul is the same. We are not carved by force, but by attention, by tenderness. You see, when I was younger, I thought love was loud, that it came rushing in like a storm, that it demanded proof, declarations, urgency. But now I know it's something else entirely. Love, I found, lives in the pauses, to the silence between words, in the space left open for someone to rest beside you, in the way a hand hovers near, not to grasp, but to say, I am here. There was a farmer once. I do not know his name. I doubt he knew mine. I'd been walking for days through a stretch of land where the fields roll like cloth laid out by a tired hand. I stopped near his gate, not to beg, but simply to rest. I must have looked worn, my armor dull, my face more shadow than shape. He brought bread, no words, no questions, just warm bread, thick with grain and steam, rising in the morning chill. He set it down beside me, patted the stone I leaned on, and returned to his work. Dulda nolda. Dulda soli avi bite felt like a kind of healing, not because I was starved for food, but because I was starved for that kind of wordless kindness. And there was a friend long ago who sang under the stars. His voice was not perfect, not polished, but oh, how it filled the night. We had no lute, no fire, just our cloaks and the sky above us. He sang a song about a girl who braided rain into her hair, so she'd never forget the sound of spring. I don't recall the tune exactly, but I remember the way I felt, as if I was not alone in the world, as if the stars themselves had gathered to listen. That sips what lingers, you know. Not the triumphs, not the crowds, but those quiet kindnesses, the way a moment can wrap itself around you and leave you warmer than before. And sometimes, even now, when I sit like this, boots dangling over the edge, fingers curled around a warm stone, I feel them still, not as ghosts. No, just impressions, gentle reminders that I have been loved, and I have loved in return, in small ways, in steady ways. The lake helps me remember. Its surface is calm, but below it flows something ancient, a current of memory. I like to think each ripple carries the sound of every soft goodbye ever whispered beneath these trees, and each return, and each promise spoken not aloud but through presence alone. There's something sacred in silence shared. You've given me that tonight, and I do not take it lightly. See the moon's reflection on the water. It quivers slightly, Not because the moon has moved, but because the water has. Even so, the reflection remains. Distorted, yes, but still true, still beautiful. That's how I think of time now, not as a thief, but as a mirror. It does not erase who we've been. It simply teaches us to see those parts of ourselves in new ways, kinder ways. I used to chase answers, to try and name every feeling, measure every decision, account for every turn of the road. But now I let them come as they will. I sit with them. Some take the shape of sorrow. Others arrive in laughter so light I think it might float from my chest like a feather. All of them belong. All of them deserve their place at the table. And you, my dear friend, you belong too, even in your quiet, especially in your quiet. There's a strength in the way you listen. Not all do, many hear, but few truly listen. Fewer still choose to stay when the night grows long and the story's slow. That you stir here, and I stem grateful. I wonder what have been your moments of stillness, your sacred pauses. Was it a cup of tea grown cold while you watched the wind? Was it the way someone once said your name with care, with softness? Was it the hush between notes in a song that made your chest ache for no reason at all? Whatever they were, I hope you've kept them close. They are your treasures, more than any coin, more than any title. I sometimes think the world was built, not from stone and fire, but from memory, from feeling, from every gentle thing that was ever done without needing to be. That is the kind of legacy I hope to leave. Not a name carved into stone, but warmth, quiet, a pause in which someone else might breathe easier. And tonight, here by the lake, I think I found that, not alone, but with you. So let us stay a while longer. Let the water reshape us. Let the stars witness our stillness. There is nowhere else I'd rather be than beside you in this hush, beneath this moon, with only the night left to say all the things our hearts already know. Do you feel that, my dear companion? The fire's grown low behind us now, just embers really, glowing soft as coals in a baker's hearth at dawn. No need to feed it. Let it dim. Let it fade on its own time, like a story that's ready to end, but lingers a little longer out of kindness. I come here often, you know, to this old pier. Always in the evening, always when the light is gentlest. There's something about this place, the way the water stills, the way the moon settles in the sky without hurry. It reminds me of how the world breathes when no one is watching. Sometimes I think this place remembers me, not in the way people do, with names and dates and faded parchment, but in a quieter way, as if the stones beneath us recognize the rhythm of my boots, and the lake knows the sound of my sigh. It's strange, isn't it, how some places feel more like home than walls ever could. I don't always speak when I stem here. Some nights, I simply sit, hands on my knees, head tilted toward the stars, and I listen, not for anything in particular, just to listen. The wind through the reeds, the slow shift of water against wood, the gentle pop of cooling stone. Even now, with you beside me, the silence between our words feels full, like the pause after a song. When the echo still dances in the rafters, that's something I treasure. The kind of quiet that doesn't ask to be filled. The kind that lets you rest without explanation. And here, on this pier, I let myself rest fully. No armor to polish. No watch to keep. No path ahead demanding footsteps. Just the soft embrace of night and the old familiar hush of water lapping at the posts below. I may not rise early tomorrow, or the day after. And that, too, that is all right. There were years when I thought every morning must begin with purpose, with a sharpening of blade or a tightening of strap. But now I find that some mornings begin best with a stretch, a long exhale, and the slow discovery that I'm still here, that the sun has returned without being asked, that the world spins gently on, with or without my urgency. It's a strange sort of peace to come to, late in life, to know that I'm allowed to pause, that I'm not falling behind, but simply finding stillness. Some days the most honorable thing I do is nothing at all. And on nights like this, I believe that deeply. The moonlight rests on the water tonight like lace, delicate silver, almost too perfect to touch. It wavers slightly with each ripple, not broken, just softened. I think I understand that now. You can hold your shape, even while changing, even while letting go. There's a quiet comfort in knowing I do not need to be anything more than what I am, tired, present, and here with you. You've been good company, not for filling the air, but for sharing it, for letting the moments stretch between us like a warm woolen shawl. There's a kindness in that, a rare one. I think that's what I've come to love most about this place. Not the solitude, but the way it makes space for whatever you bring. Joy, sorrow, wariness, wonder. It takes it all, holds it gently, and says nothing in return. It just remains. Like a dear friend who sits beside you through the long silence, not to fix it, but to honor it. I find myself speaking slower now. Not because I'm tired, though I am, but because I don't want to rush the last of this night. The last of this stillness, the last of our time beneath this moon. Do you see how the stars are gathering? Not crowded, just arriving, one by one. The kind of quiet reunion only the sky can host. Each light a reminder that even in darkness there is presence, there is witness. Signed he. I think we all become quieter in time, not from sadness, but from having learned the weight of words, from knowing that sometimes the most loving thing you can say is I am here, and then say nothing more. So I till rests now for a little while. My hands are steady, folded on my knees. My back leans gently against the post behind me. The fire is almost out, and I can hear the faintest creak of wood beneath us, as if the pier itself is sighing. That's good to sigh, not from sorrow, from relief, from the easing of something once held too tightly. Let's stay here, just a while longer. Let's not name the time. Let it slip by like mist, unnoticed and unneeded. Let the night close around us gently, like curtains drawn by an old hand at the end of a play. I still speak less now, not because there is less to say, but because what has been said already is enough. And the rest belongs to the wind and the water and the stars. Look at the way the moonlight shimmers now, barely clinging to the tips of the ripples, like it too is growing sleepy. You've stayed so quietly with me, dear heart, longer than most, and I want you to know it means more than I can put to words. To sit beside someone without needing anything from them, that is a rare gift, a true one. Thank you for sharing this hush with me. The fire has almost faded now, just the last curls of amber tucked low in the ash. Even the crickets seem to be pausing between their songs. It feels as though the whole world is drawing one long, gentle breath. And you've been so still, so present. I imagine the night has wrapped itself around you by now, soft as wool, slow as snowfall. Let it hold you, my friend. You've nothing to prove here. Not in this place. Not in this moment. Tonight you have been part of something sacred, not grand, not loud, but quietly true. The way your presence filled the space beside me, not with words, but with warmth. I can feel the weight easing from your shoulders, just as the mist lifts from the lake. You don't need to carry it all. Not now. Let it settle here. In the folds of the dusk, I will keep it safe for you. No need to answer. Not now. Just let your eyes rest on the moon's trail over the water, and your thoughts drift like petals on the current, slow, unhurried, unbound. There is peace here, not the kind that demands silence, but the kind that makes silence feel like home. So let yourself soften, let your hands relax, let your breath fall gentle and easy. And hurry, sleep comes, as it surely will, on feet as light as candle flame. May it carry you somewhere kind, somewhere with rivers that sing low songs, and skies that open wide without asking why. Somewhere soft, somewhere where you are already welcome. And if in the drifting, your mind returns to this lake, is a need. This old night seated beside you, know that I'll still be here, breathing slow, watching stars guarding the quiet. You've given me your listening. That is no small thing. So now, dear companion, close your eyes. Let go. Just for now. Just for tonight. Our dreams drift like leaves upon this water, and may morning find you lighter than you were. Sleep well, my friend. Las bewust de levitation to patient thinkings